How's it going, folks? I'm Matthew. This is Lemora's Cards, and today we're breaking down some deck lists that we got from SCG CON Hartford. This is a big in-person cEDH tournament that happened over the weekend. Had over 150 players in it, so pretty large event. Notably, you might be looking at this video and see that it looks a little short for a top 16 breakdown because SCG doesn't really do a very good job of getting us the deck list. So we're just looking at the top 4 plus a patron submitted deck list. Hint, hint, if you want your decks featured, I'm gonna be doing these tournament overviews every single week. If you want your deck featured, $5 patron to get that. Check the link in the description. You can get your deck featured on the channel. If you enjoy this video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing. Support me on Patreon like these amazing patrons did. Let me know what you like, what you didn't like, what you want to see next. And again, get your deck submitted over on the Patreon. All that being said, let's hop into it. Looking to run a great cEDH event? Having hosted over 100 successful tournaments, Eminence Gaming has your back with Command Tower. With its intuitive tournament manager dashboard, you can handle everything from deck list submission to player management in just a few clicks. Then, all players need to do is scan a generated QR code to have access to your full tournament bracket. Put your players first with seamless pairing software and real-time access to standings. Take the guesswork out of tournaments. Give Command Tower a try for your next event. First up, we're looking at Tymna Thrasios, the old go-to deck of the format. Let's take a look. This comes in a few different flavors now. It's not as popular, but it has seen some decent performances lately. It had a good run at the Boil. It shows up. And let's see what variety we're looking at. Okay, boom. Carrion Feeder. This is probably a Hulk list. Nomads in core, so we're doing cephalid breakfast stuff. Okay. That's probably part of our Hulk pile. Another Aristocrat effect, Dauntless Dismantler, and Oof. So yeah, we're a Staxier, and then we scroll down here, and yeah, we see the Protean Hulk. So we are a Staxier Protean Hulk TNT list. That's very TNT of you. Academy Rector, so we're probably running, let's scroll down. Spoiler alert. Yeah, so we got the Pattern of Rebirth. If we can get Rector out with a sack outlet, we just get the Protean Hulk line. We get to play Rector, sack it, go get Pattern of Rebirth, put that on a creature, sack that creature, get Protean Hulk, sack that creature, and then do our shenanigans. So we do see Talion, the Kindly Lord, meaning this is a very grindy list, and then Seaborn Muse. So this is looking to be super grindy, put a creature win into play that's hard to interact with. So we got the Dread Return. If we have a sack outlet, right? We do the Hulk thing. We can put into play like Cephalid Illusionist, Nomads in core, which lets us mill our whole deck, and then we can put in like a Grand Abolisher. Mill our entire library, and then we can Dread Return, cast with Thassa's Oracle. We are running Natural Order. Another way to get our Hulk can also, in a pinch, just grab a Seaborn Muse if you're not set up to do Hulk stuff. If you get Seaborn Thrasios in these long grindy games, that's a pretty hard to beat engine. And then a bunch of the tutors we'd sort of expect. Slaughter Pact has them in the most popular and 4-color list, so that's cool. Opting for Assassin's Trophy, so going deep for interaction because this card's just terrible. This card is so bad. Really valuing the removal, and again, if you've got the Hulk thing set up, you want to be able to clip off like an op agent or something. Replicate doing a much better job for that specifically. Of course, we have the Entomb because we're doing like reanimation stuff. Not running Reanimate itself, I probably would opt for that. I mean, you're running Entomb, might as well, right? Not a lot of artifacts because, of course, we're doing Null Rod and Oof stuff, though we are also on the One Ring. You don't always see those together because they can be really awkward. But, One Ring, Seaborn, Thrasios nonsense, that is so hard to beat if you get that going. So it's just like a pivot plan. And again, like the One Ring being a value engine that's so easy to power out, even in a deck without that many fast mana rocks. Powerful card. And then, yeah, of course, we have the Animate Dead. We have the Necromancy, ways to, after we entomb a Hulk, to put it back into play, or just cast these spells. These spells just come up. These are a way to get a Dockside, in these decks. Notably, we are not playing clones, now that I think about it. And of course, us being an oof deck, it's not like we're looking to like copy everybody's Dockside. It's just a thing you can do. Survival of the Fittest, of course, great in this kind of deck. Stony Silence, so we're going pretty all in on the artifact hate. And then, yeah, of course, the Pattern of Rebirth, which goes with our Hulk stuff. Pretty standard mana base, barring the Phyrexian Tower, which again lines up very well with Hulk piles. I wonder how well this card tends to perform. It being pretty much a colorless land in a lot of scenarios in a 4-color deck could be tricky. These colors can still do it. They still got good cards. This is hard to interact with. We don't see like some of the things you might see overlap with some of these. So no Hermit Druid, Sacred Guide, of course, none of that. We don't see that very often nowadays. So not doing all of the creature combo stuff, but yeah, going in for the Hulk. A bit more focused of a TNT list. It's kind of like what I like to see. Third place, we have Rocco Cabaret Caterer. Rocco's on the comeback. We're seeing it. We got Vivian, which is our big old birthing pod. Wirewood Symbiote works well with this stuff we're doing. Dauntless Dismantler again. Pretty much a new staple. I guess Anaya. Okay, so we are staxing. We are doing the Archon of Emeria stuff. At least a little bit of stacks. Avid Mind Sensor, that's one-sided hate. Pelagi Wayfarer, that's that new one that's all the colors, right? Yeah, so this gives your Rocco Convoke, which is Pretty cool. Which can make this card kind of like mana positive. You can spend this for 3 and then it be worth more than 3 for your Rocco if you just have a ton of creatures in play. Cutzel, that new Grand Abolisher effect, pretty nice. Squee, of course, for food chaining. Village Bell Ringer goes infinite with Kiki. We're doing Kiki combo stuff here. We've got the Feldar Guardian. We have Karmic Guide to do our Birthing Pod shenanigans. Solitude, great card. So we're doing Temur Sabertooth Dockside, which is pretty standard. Doesn't line up great with Archon. You can bounce it, but again, it's a little awkward. And then we're doing a meal. Doesn't work at all with Rocco. You can't do like Dockside Emil Rocco stuff. You can get infinite mana and that's going to be good. It can work well here because we have ways to just win anyways. Because we can Dockside Emil, we can go get Perforos and put that into play and then just flicker anything and win. It's also, I mean, if you get Dockside Meal, infinite mana, infinite ETBs on everything, it's just good. You can like Solitude lock the table, make it really hard for anybody to rebuild. Any kind of ETB you can get infinitely is going to be strong. And then we do have the ability to just Perforos and kill everybody. Elish Norn, this is one some of the Roccos we're experimenting with. So it looks like this kind of looks pretty similar to the Rocco list we were seeing, you know, last year when the deck started falling off. But see if there's anything different here. Angel's Grace, okay, that one. It seems like it's coming back a little bit. Calamity's Wake, so really respecting the graveyard. Get Lost, good removal spell. Also helps for your Dockside combo deck. Cursed Mirror, if you're a Dockside deck, you should think about that card. Birthing Pod, another One Ring deck. So far we're 2 for 2 on the One Ring. Meticulous Excavation, so we're also doing that. So this is another way to combo with your Dockside. You can also use it to just like, you know, bounce Rocco back to hand to be able to do something. Pretty much what we'd expect. Blind Obedience, again, also good if you're a Dockside combo deck. And then the lands, only 26. Going as deep as Tarnished Citadel for multicolor lands. Cavernous Souls, so good on Elf and Rocco. So all in all, other than some new cards like Boromir, this is pretty similar to what we saw from Rocco list last year. Just a few, you know, cleaning up a few things here. Isn't crazy on the stacks effects. Pretty cool deck. It's a fun one. It's a powerful one. Very flexible. Again, this is another creature combo list, so maybe we'll see that as a bit of a theme at this event, that, you know, creature combos are powerful, hard to interact with. If people are doing their sitting back on draw engine stuff, you can really sneak in a win that it doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't matter if people have 8 or 9 cards in hand, if they don't specifically have like the Force of Will, and sometimes with Cavern of Souls, that doesn't even matter. You might just get them. So we're halfway through the video because, again, SCG doesn't upload deck lists. Come on, guys. This one is, you know, a patron you guys might be familiar with. This is Eric's list, and we're looking at his new hybrid Korvold list that's been informed by, like, you know, just how grindy the game is right now, and looking at like Japanese Korvold lists have done really well that I showed in previous videos you can check out. All right, so far. So we got the Impulsive Pilfer. He says that in testing, this thing has been great. It's amazing with Skirt Prospector. The Encore thing could just be mana positive. You get so many treasures. So just in general, sort of testing the kind of goblin package of being able to Recruiter for 1, of course, your Dockside, but we can get Vexing Shusher. We're doing Squee Food Chain stuff. So there's a lot of overlapping things we can do with the goblin package. Vexing Shusher is so good during those turns where you just have all the mana in the world. You're just like hoping not to get blown out by, you know, Ristic Mystic nonsense. Ruthless Technomancer, probably the most powerful card in this deck. Pretty crazy. Okay, so now he's on Scheming Symmetry. Again, like kind of like the Tevish list. Any deck that can, you know, draw the top card immediately, Scheming Symmetry, it just gets to take advantage of it a lot better, and especially if you're an op agent deck, you know, you can also just Scheming Symmetry, target 2 players, blah blah blah. Notable thing he's not running that he has been on for a while is the Dosen. That might be like a sideboard slot right now where he's thinking about it. Vexing Shusher kind of doing some of that work. And then the Sylvan Tutor, again, top deck tutors are pretty good in Korvold. You have a lot of ability to draw. Your Dockside combo deck, getting access to your Dockside is probably worth it. Even though Sylvan Tutor, not the highest quality tutor in the world. In this kind of deck, what do you need? You just need the gas. So Crop Rotation has come in and out of the deck. It's like he's on it now, so I'm expecting there's Emergent Zone. There's 2 pieces of really cool tech here. Dark Blast, which showcased in previous Korvold decks. So this is like an amazing answer to just onboard hate when you're doing the Korvold Storm stuff. Crack a Treasure, Dark Blast something, you know, you can hit, obviously it's very good at Bowmasters when you're starting to do the Korvold thing and you're at a low life total, you got creatures in play you don't want dead. This lets you avoid drawing because whenever you'd have a draw trigger, you replacement, while also being able to just keep milling cards over and over is great, especially because we're a reanimation deck. We got cards like Noxious Revival to be able to buy back cards from the graveyard, overlapping things that make this card good, even though like on its face, it looks like a relatively weak removal spell. And we also got Firestorm. So Eric said Firestorm has been better than Culling Ritual, and you can see he's not even on Culling Ritual right now. now, which has been, you know, a highlight of these colors because it is such a high upside spell, but it's not just hard to resolve, and it can be awkward to line up. Additional cost to cast it, discard X cards, and then you deal X damage to each of X targets. So for 1 mana, you can like discard 3, hit 3 things for 3. You can pop 3 Drannith Magistrates for 1 mana. Like this card really can break the Korvold storming stuff where you're just like, there's so much stuff in play, what do I do? Boom, blow up a Noof, blow up a Drannith, blow up whatever. Like if you're behind, you know, you top deck this when you're at like 2 cards in hand, obviously it's not that great. But when you're doing the Korvold thing and you need to get rid of hate, there's probably not a better card. And again, you just discard a whole ton of cards and then, you know, your ability to breach is just skyrocketed. The One Ring he is still on. Okay, my camera died, so I might look a little bit different. Fix my hair a little bit. And we're only on the 1 Signet. I know he's gone like full Soul Land, go, you know, a whole bunch of talismans. Just run the Arcane Signet now. And then enchantment. So Carpet of Flowers. This has come in and out of lists. Anime Dead Necromancy, of course, being great. Sylvan Library. So he is going basically every draw engine. Hey, he changed cards. Hold on. I just looked at this deck. This deck was just different like 2 seconds ago. 14 minutes ago. This is cheating. You can't do this. He's trying to hide his black market connections, which is another draw engine he was on. And then Necro, Food Chain. That we're doing all that kind of stuff. On the Cabal Pit, testing out that as a way to interact with things. And then he's on the Phyrexian Tower. Has come in and out of the deck. Same with Takenuma. If you get your deck submitted, don't change it in the, you know, like while I'm going to be recording. Come on now. Thrasios Vial Smasher. First things first, it doesn't look like the stormier variant of these colors that I've seen in, like, if you watched my previous top 16 breakdowns. Yeah, we're Teamer Sabertoothing, Seedborn Musing. Those come in and out. Displacer Kitten, not always the most common, but be a pretty good card. Doesn't look like the stormy variant, but we're not sure. You know, we got the 2 Spirit Guides, Image, the 2 clones, Sabertooth. Ewit doesn't always show up at the most stormy variants, and same with Imperial Recruiter. So I'm expecting this more mid-range. We have Reanimate, probably can go in any cEDH deck at this point. So we've got Born Upon a Wind, no Final Fortune. So like the odds that we're necroing seems a little bit lower. No Crop Rot, so probably no E-Zone, so probably no Necro. So that's like a big difference. Like you'll see some of these 4 color lists are like running Necro with Born, Final Fortune, and a Crop Rotation for E-Zone. So like tons of ability to just Necro very deep. Not doing that here. Running lots of interaction, bunch of different removal spells like Abrupt Decay, which might not show up there. We are still Nausing. Pact Negation, I think, is actually, for me, I've felt like even in my most mid-rangey builds, I really have missed this card because of the ability. Like sometimes you just need to tap out to develop, and having something, you know, when you have the mana available to pay for Pact, it's just so nice to be able to counterspell something and not lose. Instead of sitting there with an offer you can't refuse in your hand that you're not able to cast. Like, it is a 5 mana counterspell, but sometimes you're willing to do that. And then also Born Upon a Wind has made Pact Negation not as bad because you can basically turn that Pact into paying 2 mana and winning on your upkeep if you have the ability to do so. So we are on Conqueror's Flail and Defense Grid. So those are the 2, like Conqueror's Flail, not so much. I mean, that's pretty much just like an expensive Grand Abolisher. Defense Grid is a little bit more all in. Of course, competent pilots know when to cast it and when not to. And then, yeah, 3 for 3 on the One Ring. As we expected, no Necropotency here. The mana base highlights kind of an interesting thing with this build where we're on 2 Soul Lands. City of Traders, not the most mid-rangey card in the world. And it also highlights that despite being a heavy-ish green deck, we're on 5 Talismans and only 2 Mana Dorks. Probably another reason we're not on Cradle, because we're kind of going in on the Soul Land Talisman sort of mana base that's kind of become like a popular thing that some decks opt to do. Not always the most popular in green list, but it is a thing you can do. So I think this deck is pulling from a couple different directions where it's not the Curious Control stuff that's, you know, just jamming every engine that it can and actually looking to cast Vial Smasher at times. Definitely more of a hybrid between those sort of builds and pulling from where they want to kind of play in the style that looks like they're most comfortable in. And then in first place, a bit of a resurgence of this deck too. We got Malcolm Vial Smasher. Grixis Pirates has been a deck that we've kind of memed on the channel because of how hyped the turbo variant of this deck list was and how poorly it continued to perform all through last year every time we covered it. But we'll see if that's what we're doing here. Looking at the creature base, it doesn't look like it because Niv Mizzet is not the most turbo Nas card you'll ever see. Lots of pirates. So it's looking more like we're doing mid-rangey pirate stuff. So we have like cards like Reckless Fireweaver, which work with cards like Trickery Charm to turn into a pirate, and then you can combo off by picking everybody down, making a treasure every time you do it if Malcolm's in play. Spell Sky to protect our creature combo, Glenhorn Buccaneer, of course. Very Mastermind, you know, a bit of a more mid-rangey card. This thing is not that likely to trigger in the early turns and gets better as the game goes. Notion Thief might be making a little bit of a comeback. They don't always have the Bowmasters, but people are always drawing cards, so Notion Thief is definitely a card to think think about. Again, still, it gets bodied so hard by Bowmasters, but I think especially if you're diligent and aware and really got a read on your opponents, and you know, it's a card to think about. Mayhem Devil lets us do crazy stuff with our treasure, turn it into a pirate. You do the same thing. Talion, again, very grindy. It's looking like this is a more grindy mid-range version of this list. Wheel and Windfall, even though I don't expect this to be the fastest deck in the world, still opting for the 2 wheels. And then Reanimate, pretty good in a deck that has lots of different creature combos that overlap. And doing Dockside. Yeah, here we have the Artificial Evolution and the Trickery Charm, both mainly there for the pirate interactions. There's some other cute things you can do with them. The interaction package is interesting. It looks kind of like an older Grixis list when you see cards like Miscast and Dispel, which aren't that popular, and Alchemist Retreat. Again, I hate this card, but in a braid. So like definitely looking like the slower, more modal or high value cards are being valued here. So like Drown in the Lock has a lot of flexibility, ton of flexibility. Resculpt, pretty flexible card. Mana Drain has just huge upside at the cost of being a little bit slower. Muddle the Mixture lets you grab important cards in the list. So it's definitely not necessarily like I have to run every piece of 1-mana interaction in the world. Still has a decent amount of cheap interaction though. And we are not nosing. So yeah, this is not a turbo nos Grixis list, kind of like we expected. Nothing crazy in the artifact package. We do have the defense grid, which is great for this creature combo deck, and the One Ring, 4 for 4, 100% in this one, in this top 4. Everything else are pretty standard. And we have the Curiosity and Ophidian Eye, which works with our Malcolm and our Niv Mizzet, stuff like that. Breaching and Rhystic Studying, 27 lands, nothing too wild in the mana base. Cavernous Souls on Pirate is great here, of course. So yeah, it definitely seems like the mid-range Grixis stuff has a lot of push right now. Like the card quality is there. Being turbo just doesn't seem very good. So it definitely seems like this might be the way to build. You know, I just covered Sauron. I just covered another Malcolm Vial in Japan that tops. Maybe this is the way that we need to go with our Grixis list going forward. Let me know what you think down in the description below. But cool list. I love seeing Grixis do well, even if it's not turboing out. Love to see it. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down below which of these deck lists was your favorite. What are you looking to try out next? And what would you like to see from me next? If you'd like to have your deck list featured in next week's tournament video, because I'm going to be doing these weekly, as long as there are events, I'm going to cover them. If you want yours covered, become a $5 patron in the link down below so that you can get your deck list featured. Thank you so much for watching this video. And as always, go play cEDH. Have a good one, everybody.